My name is Joana Oliviera. I am the marketing manager for Quinta Lago Resort, and I've been working in Quinta for the last 8 years. So I've quite experienced a lot of change on resorts, and ready to tell you all about it.
Great. So just going to go straight into it. So we know that obviously COVID-19 has shaken the travel industry or the tourism industry as a whole. And I was just keen. So obviously you categorize yourself as a sustainable tourism initiative, right? So, so what is your feeling how COVID has impacted the sustainable tourism in general, also your business as well?
I think that this pandemic gave us time to rethink on what's more important, and actually also time to firm up our strategies and our initiatives, and start, for instance, implementing our plan sooner than when we anticipated. So we've always been eco-friendly and environmentally carers since the very inception of the resort. But we needed like a written manifesto of the resort, so that we had like a centralized action plan and an overall strategy for the resort, to focus and to touch all different businesses of Quinta do Lago. Like, I don't know if you know Quinta do Lago, but we have our golf courses, but we have our 12 restaurants. We also have our sports complex, the Magnolia Hotel. We have villas. We have services like Q Landscape. That is like it's a landscape architecture company, and also our security company. So we needed an overall strategy, and we had more time to build that strategy.
Excellent. So I think that's a good point to just go into. If you could tell me a little bit about Quinta do Lago, if I pronounce it correctly.
So Quinta do Lago, we are an established family residential and wellness resort in the beautiful region of the Algarve, southern Portugal. We provide a very safe, very clean environment, an exclusive environment for people that look for holidays here in this area, but also for our residents. So we are set in a very unique location, which is a Rio Formosa that extends all the way from here, Quinta do Lago, all the way to the Spanish border, which is the Rio Formosa. So in Quinta do Lago, you can find a lifestyle. Actually, what we try to provide is this. You can find our golf courses, our restaurants, you can find family events. It's a destination also for sports. You have the beach. So this is all we offer you.
Excellent. Good to hear. And so just going back to the first point briefly. So do you think that moving on from the pandemic, I think we're all thinking about how people are going to respond and how our consumers going to respond. So do you think that people's hunger, if you like, for more responsible travel and tourism do you think that will have increased or decreased? Obviously, it can go two different ways. It can be like people are so hungry for travel, so they just don't care. They just go off, or they'll say, okay, we need to travel in a different way now.
Yeah, I think that people are even more considerative than before. I think the lockdown made people like appreciate the little things in life, and that these things that people had for granted, that they were used to, they no longer could access. So I think everyone like wants their very little green space. So everyone is even more obsessed into like caring about the planet and being environmental friendly. So I'm sure, for example, everyone appreciated the fact in Venice, all the canals were suddenly, they were not brown, they were like bright and clean waters, almost like wildlife was reliving and like Earth was healing from pollution, you know. So the truth is we need to adapt to this new normal, and our guests, our staff, and health and our environment is our priority. So we have like strict measures, obviously now with after this pandemic, we've always been very focused on cleaning and health and environmental, but even now we're more obsessed with this, and we encourage, for instance, people, they need to use like protective masks that normally are made of plastic. But I think that our job does not end here. We need to look in other ways at how we can turn these like protective measures that are now part of our routine or day-to-day on eco-friendly. So for instance, we started already using reusable masks on our outlets, just to mention an action.
Great. So obviously that brings on to the next point. Is obviously you have recently launched a new environmental strategy, and can you just tell a little bit about what that includes and what kind of new initiatives that involves?
So, for instance, the resort Quinta do Lago has always been driven by nature, due to the fact that we are in a protected nature reserve. So the Ria Formosa Nature Park. So this was quite easy and straightforward for us. But since the very beginning, since inception of the resort, we have been very loyal to our original master plan. And this is important. This is something that we really treasure. So we have, for instance, not built more than we should have from the original master plan. We have like strict restrictions on height of the buildings, for example. Also in this area in 1972, when the resort was established, it was the resort was only like land and agriculture. So like the name stands, Quinta do Lago stands for farm of the lake. It's kind of like we went back to our roots and we built our own Quinta farm, for instance. So what do we do in Quinta farm? We grow our own vegetables to go from the farm to the table. Like I told you, we have 12 restaurants and they're all different from one another. We have Pure, which focus more on salads. We have our sports bar and restaurant. We have Casa do Lago, but we try to grow. We're not obviously self-sustainable.
That's sufficient, yeah.
It's a challenge,
yeah.
For us. But we like our soups, for instance, are made from the vegetables from the farms, our herbs for our cocktails. So it's something that we've really like focused on the last couple of years on growing this continued route to our origins, you know. And we want to pass a message, obviously, that Quinta do Lago is driven by nature, and that we are like in our operation, in our day-to-day, we are like resilient. So we try to pursue these goals. And also we have our community, for instance, the residents, the people that visit us. They're super engaged community, and they're always connected to these sustainability causes. And I think we should show and lead the way in setting these examples. It's quite important. Just so you know, for instance, our community during this pandemic, was able to raise over 500K in terms of medical equipment for the region hospitals that needed so desperately to be prepared for. I think that no one was prepared for this pandemic, but it's just so you see how strong our community is, the bonds, and it's about environmental, but also our community. I think it's all related to.
Yeah. So it's like you what you're saying is you invest in the local area, right? You invest in the local economy. So if you see like if you see a lot of like mass tourism travel where actually people come in large drafts in, but without actually investing and putting money into to the community and the local economy. So I guess in essence what you're saying is that you're actually investing in your local areas.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you mentioned really interesting about food, because obviously food is a huge issue around travel, and obviously the issue about food miles, like how long does food have to travel to get to your plate. So you're saying that you are looking to obviously grow a lot of your food yourself, to your established farm, but also do you also trade with the food you have to buy in? Do you buy that locally from the surrounding areas and the community?
Yeah, we do that. We have local produce. We have like the local fisherman that brings, like for instance, our fish restaurant, Casa do Lago, receives the visits of like the fishermen, and they sell directly to us. And we use the fresh produce always, and we also try to reduce the how do you say the carbon print,
the carbon footprint of the food you serve. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So we have our chief executive, like we have 12 restaurants, so it's quite a big impact and a big thing for us. And working together with our F&B director, we have a chief executive that works with all the chefs and looks for these strategies, to implement these strategies. For instance, in our restaurants, we have like the straws are PLA. Sorry if they're not plastic. So we've reduced and changed things to make our outlets even in marketing. We're reducing collateral and focusing in our digital strategy.
That's very interesting. I guess it had all come fairly quickly, hasn't it? I know that pandemic came in as a stopper for it, but suddenly, almost overnight, the whole world was concerned about plastic pollution, and in the same essence, like also the carbon footprint. So I guess you have had to work quite fast to actually ramp up and do what actually, I guess, a lot of the public now demands. So I guess what I hear from you is saying is you're working on it, but it's a huge challenge to actually get to where you want to eventually go.
Yeah, it's true. Like I told you, we had several measures already in place, and probably, but we didn't have one big manifesto, right? So it was a job of like, okay, what are we doing in all different areas? How can we put it together and then communicate as a whole, as a resort structure? And this was a huge job that we are really proud of. And I think it positions obviously the resort where it should be and as leading the way in environmental friendly causes.
So obviously, when you talk about sustainability, it had a lot of different elements to it. We talked a little bit about nature and people want to see more greenery. Because to what extent do you work with other kind of organizations or maybe NGOs in terms of protecting nature, like in terms of enhanced conservation? Is that something you kind of are engaged in as well?
Well, we work with RIA's association, for example, which is the wildlife rehabilitation and rescue center, one of the centers here in the Algarve. So the Quinta do Lago, and because of the fact it's in the Rio Formosa, has obviously a very rich fauna and flora, and they do like animal release in Quinta do Lago, so we work with them. And also we have Infra Quinta, who is it's a half managed by Quinta do Lago and the municipality, and that company has a very strong ethos on environment, and they help like promote the quality and sound management of the urban area of the resort and the public infrastructures. So for instance, there are also national leaders in non-revenue water. So for instance, your tap water here in Quinta do Lago is one of the best certified waters in Portugal. And obviously the Rio Formosa Park entity itself we work very closely with them.
Excellent. So if you could just turn a little bit next to your golf courses. Obviously, golf has development of golf courses have had on a global level quite a bad reputation, and just because many developers have destroyed the environments, and obviously putting sustainability next to golf courses, not many people see the same connection. So, but I think you're doing things a little bit different. So maybe you can just talk about what you're doing, and also golf requires a lot of land. So how do you manage those courses to actually make sure that biodiversity are protected?
Yeah, I think that golf business can be a leader in many ways, and from ecosystem business and conservation of wildlife to health and well-being of for all ages, and also to jobs and economic value through the local supply chains. I think in Quinta do Lago, the Golf Legacy works together with all the different business units, because it's part of a big company. And as a whole, we are dedicated to support nature in our communities. So I think we need to be leading the way, like finding innovative solutions and ways of turning that negative bit for a more positive, like towards conserving resource. So for instance, in our golf courses, since the very beginning, from designing, so architecturing a golf course to the irrigation engineering, all that is done looking into a sustainable way of using the resources. So that's carefully a plan. Also, we've built shelters for insects, for instance, but that we call bug hotels, and they're very important in conserving and controlling the garden pests, like different pests like mites and slugs, and also reducing the use of insecticide. So this is something that we do. Also placing nest boxes, so for birds, to attract different bird species like blue tides, great tide, little owls, also providing solutions to control insects and rodent pests. So also the pine processionaries. So we've done quite a lot in terms of like building these wild nests or hotels, so that we can reduce the footprint on the golf courses. So electric buggies is also one of the measures that we've invested on our fleets. Also in terms of like the landscape and the plants that are used, for instance, using native plant species, it's very important instead of bringing other species that are not native to this area, but at the same time providing like a very golf and genuine experience. So this is just a summary of like in our golf courses, how we can positively like lead the way in terms of sustainability.
Very interesting. I assume that the land you manage is a sizable area of land. So do you
It's
also
three times the size of Monaco.
wow. So there's obviously do you also let like kind of nature kind of grow undisturbed in terms of actually
Yeah.
let things foster? So you aware a term called rewilding, where you actually just set certain areas of land aside where you don't touch that land. So is that something you have looked into as well?
Yes, absolutely. Like I mentioned, we've preserved the original master plan since the very beginning, and if I don't know if you've been to Quinta, but the thing that you will feel is that sense of space. You have space to breathe and in Quinta. So it's the build is not all on top of each other. So we have these within the resort, these areas that are just like natural, and obviously the Ria Formosa as well.
Great. So obviously one thing is like what you do yourself, what you can control, what you can do within the resort, but obviously another element is like how people get to visit you. So do you in some way try to encourage people to travel to you sustainable, so using as less carbon
Well,
as possible to
absolutely. For instance, Faro Airport is just like 25 minutes cycling ride to Quinta do Lago, and it's a very easy flat ride to Quinta do Lago. So instead of renting a car, why not rent a bike? And we are a wellness resort, and so we encourage people to on a healthy lifestyle. So our sports complex, for instance, the campus, we have like packages built for fitness, relax, body, mind, with our hotel accommodation in Quinta do Lago and our villas as well. But we also have our cycling activities, and we encourage people to engage in this and to book an experience to Quinta do Lago that it's not only like holiday stay beach, which is normal and it's good too, but people are more and more looking for these types of experience too, with exercising and being outdoors and active. So we have that also ready for them.
Finally, how do you see this space developing in the next few months and perhaps the next years? Obviously, have you seen a lot of bookings coming in, like since restrictions being eased?
So we have, I think, obviously, we are waiting for all this. We live from the British market too. It was quite unfortunate the fact that we were not considered in the air bridge straight away when we have 1.4 cases per 1,000 people in the Algarve. When comparison to the UK, we have 4.8, if I'm not mistaken, in 1,000 cases. So we continue to be very safe and very good destination to fly to, and we're ready to receive you with all the practices in place in terms of cleaning and all the health measures gone beyond the normal, so we've invested. We just need you to start coming our way, and we do have bookings. Obviously, Portuguese market as led the internal market, but we are already receiving people from France, Belgium as well, and even from the UK. People just are coming our way, and then they expect to do the forced quarantine when they go back.
Right. Okay. So you're basically just waiting for everything to begin.
Yeah.
Excellent. And in terms of actually longer forecast, how do you see things developing for you guys, but also overall for the responsible travel industry?
Yeah, I think that it's going to become more important than ever, responsible tourism, and it has quite shifted the face of tourism. And we proud ourselves to be also trying to invest and to look forward these. So we've seen trends like, for instance, Generation Z it's more conscious and of all the environment and eco-friendly places, and they're helping like decision makers choose locations like Quinta do Lago, for instance, their family holidays, and to come on resort. So I think it will be essential for every tourism, not only Quinta do Lago, but the Algarve and anywhere else in the world.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Joana, and I wish you all the best of luck. And this was really interesting.
Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Likewise.